Hi, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Risk, where our goal is to connect, engage, and inspire each other and build a global community of risk practitioners. I'm your host, Naveen Agarwal, and today I'm super excited to welcome all of you to this very special session of Let's Talk Risk just for our colleagues outside United States, especially in Southeast Asia. And for that, I have a wonderful guest today in Mr. Akram Sheikh, an industry leader from the medical device industry in India with many years of industry experience in quality regulatory space in various positions of senior leadership. And we're going to talk about the challenges people face in a small startup environment when they're innovating, especially with software based medical devices, in bringing these products to market through the regulatory pathway. So I can't wait to have this conversation with Akram. And with that, Akram, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Yeah, thanks, Naveen, for that brief introduction. I think this is great being here. Thank you for having me and having a platform here to be able to put my thoughts out there and my experiences with a larger community of people. I'm super excited as well for this kind of a podcast event, and definitely look forward to share more and hear more great learning experience for both
Thank
sides.
you. Thank you so much, Akram. So let's start by just giving a very high level overview of what is happening on the ground in India. I know what I've heard from so far that the Indian medical device industry is growing rapidly. So please share with us what is happening on the ground with the medical device industry in India.
Yeah. So look, I think India is poised to be the country which is now fourth largest GDP in the world, and that means the population and the facilities around medical are improving in India as a large populated country. And more affordable medical help is available. Growth of the hospitals, increased regulatory vigilance in medical device industry, and also leading to certain simplifications in the way the medical device manufacturers can participate in this kind of market by the government, and coupled with the population having schemes from the government which allows them to go under insurance and get quality medical care. So all of this is fueling the growth of the industry of local medical device manufacturers, also pulling more investments and budget. That recent budget from India government, we could see a good change there in their allocation of budget towards healthcare. I think all of this is fueling the growth. And as we know that Indian medical device rules came into effect
Mhm,
from year 2020, and more of that implementation is happening, and we are growing the curve in the curve of maturity in
mhm,
that side. So a lot of these manufacturers, medical device manufacturers, are now coming to terms with how to meet the requirements
mhm,
and certain challenges, overcome certain challenges,
mhm,
understanding better of new expectations and things like that. And also, the regulators are now willing to hear more from the industry of how things have to be looked at. And it's an educational and awareness areas shared with both sides. And that is further bringing up some enhancements or simplification in the regulations. All of
Yeah.
that happening together. Yeah.
Great, great. So it seems to me that the environment is right. There's rapid change. There's a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of challenge. And you
Yeah.
mentioned the medical device regulation that I believe just came out a couple of years ago. On one
Yeah.
side, it's good that they separated it very much from the pharmaceutical regulation. Previously, they were both the same. Now, medical device regulation stands on its own. So that's a good thing. But on the other side, it could be a lot of challenge to figure out exactly what the regulatory bodies expect, right? That's what you're saying.
Correct. In fact,
Uh,
specifically, like you said, the genesis of this regulation was coming from the pharma industry. So the pharma world in India has matured over time, and the regulations around that has been in place. The same regulators were challenged to make medical device regulations, and initially, like you said, it was one same platform that both the industries were trying to get into the same type of regulations. But slowly there has been a divergence, but there are certain areas that will still need some amount of help and support and ideation from both sides, the industry as well as the regulators, to kind of further refine. Specifically, when you look at opportunities where we are trying to have lot many more startups now in India focusing on software based medical devices. So I think there are challenges out there, like you asked about what are the challenges. So specifically, I think software developing organizations targeting medical devices, they are tasked with some more challenges because the regulation genesis is coming from pharma. I think that's one definite challenge that we would like to talk more about it.
Yes, yes. Look, so let's get into that. And we can totally understand that software will drive innovation in medical device industry. It's happening across the world, not just in India. And with so much of technology and brain power available in India, it's very natural to expect that. And software is by itself a little bit difficult to handle when it comes to making sure it works perfectly, there are no bugs, and medical device regulation insists that devices are safe and effective. So I can understand that this would be a challenging area. So let's start into that. Can you highlight maybe a couple of examples that you have seen from your practice in the industry where people are working with software as a medical device? What kind of challenges they are running into?
Yeah, sure. I'll just pick a couple of examples. One of the example was to do with uh, a partner of us who was working on getting a software which is enabled by AI
Mhm,
to have diagnosis done on X-ray, X-ray image of a
mhm,
patient.
mhm,
So there were certain conditions of the chest X-ray they were trying to characterize for certain conditions, medical conditions, and this they wanted to offer as a solution on a cloud,
Ah.
typically a SaaS kind of a platform, and enabling the medical community to kind of offload a lot more work that they do on reporting, diagnosing using the X-ray films,
Mhm,
and also making this available for a lot more community who is having less access to trained or trained radiologists
mhm,
in
mhm,
tier 3, tier 4 cities. So this is a kind of a solution that is available like click of a button, get onto the you have an account on the
mhm,
cloud, and then you post some chest x-rays of patient, and then you get the diagnosis out, and that will help the radiologist at the other end to further take decisions and finally give out the report. So
sure.
a lot of that kind of a software which this company was the startup was trying to get their journey into the regulatory side.
Mhm,
But we are challenged with the fact that the CDSCO, which is the body for giving the license,
mhm,
is having a framework which is basically going to ask you for, okay, do you have the ISO 13485 certificate for your company for the activities that you do, and do you conduct manufacturing activities, which is your manufacturing location, and there would be an audit done for the manufacturing location to enable a license to be issued. So they get into those aspects, typically like a full medical device with
mhm,
having both hardware and software. But the challenge here was that the software, as it was available on the cloud, designed and developed by this organization, they were unable to really understand how to go about it. And this was a challenge that was put out there for some of the consultants to solve for. Of course, the consultants could only think about few things that based on their experiences in the past. But then, the learning for us when we participated in this problem solving was that we have to make the regulators' job easier. That's the first point, that approach that we need to take. So bear in mind that the regulator is trying to associate how he will complete the work of what
mhm,
the regulatory framework is talking about. And if you are looking from that lens and trying to solve the problem for them, then they are more willing to accept and listen to what you are trying
mhm,
to bring up as solution. With that lens in mind, we approach this problem, and we try to kind of put down a framework in our design history files to say that the manufacturing aspect of a software is something that happens typically at the release time of the
mhm,
software version, right? So when we finalize the software version, we are saying that it is manufactured. The software is manufactured
yeah.
and it will be used from then on by multiple users and accounts. So with keeping this in mind, we were able to, if you just put that as a guiding light
Mm,
and solve the problem. And then we were able to articulate the fact that the process of the software getting finalized to the release of the code in a in the configuration code configuration database is the manufacturing process, and we were able to put down that like a framework, talk about elements of how we will talk to the regulator or the auditor who is going to come and look at this as a manufacturing site location and explain that out. And I think happy to share that we had a good amount of success in convincing the regulator.
That's great. So this is an excellent story, and what I'm hearing you say is that thinking about communication is also very important. Not just understanding what the regulatory framework is, but also how we're going to communicate what we have done effectively to the regulators so they can understand it and interpret it the right way. I mean, you bring a point about manufacturing for a software only device. We are traditionally thinking about big factories and automated robots and people working and testing and whatnot. But for software, it's a totally different environment. So what I'm hearing you say is that really communication is important. Excellent. Guys, we're going to have a wonderful conversation. We still have 15 minutes left. So I invite you to participate in this discussion. Share your perspective, what you have done in your area of work, what kind of challenges you have faced, and maybe some insights that you can share with us. Please continue the conversation. And those of you who are joining us just now, we are having a conversation today with Akram Sheikh, an industry leader from India. And we're talking about challenges in developing software-based medical devices and getting them through the regulatory process. So Akram, let's continue our thoughts on that. A question I have for you is, one of the things regulatory people might be worried about is that what's going to happen to the software after it's released? Because I know it goes through a lot of change, right? So tell us a little bit about what the expectations are on change management of software as a medical device.
Look, I think from a regulator perspective, they are basically looking at how we are able to bring out the problem statement of the change clearly, and we are able to analyze the change impact, and then as a part of the change impact bring forward the actions that we put down in terms of verification, in terms of design transfer, in terms of any other elements that are coming out of it and impacting the final customers and the field. If that's the view that they want to see, and again, if you have that perspective in mind and apply the regulations to that, solving that problem, then you are able to conduct or have processes within you. And of course, ISO 13485 framework, which is what even IMDR regulations are close to, is having that change management principles clearly laid out. So I believe that if we are able to articulate well for the software side in terms of what the change was, and bring out the architectural clarity, the change management impact of the change, and associated tasks that need to be performed,
I
and
see.
present that as deliverables that were done, and hence we are sure of a good risk-free software and a good performing software. And that's what they wish to see. I think I can tell you that the regulators, not many of them have a software background per se, right? So and the ones which have software background perhaps understand a good level of the language that we speak in the software side. So it's easy to kind of get into that conversation of explaining logically what we did and how we did and what can we present to give them that confidence. I believe it's all about implementing effectively the current quality systems that you have, and being sure about including the many of these companies. I'm sure when they implement ISO 13485, they also implement the software development lifecycle IC 62304, and that gives a good framework to kind of articulate that the whole change management.
Excellent point. So your advice here is that apply the best practices, state of the art standards, and make sure that you are doing the best you can. Now, Akram, with software, there are also other concerns like cybersecurity and security of information. And the example you shared where the the company was trying to deploy this in the cloud, I believe that might have been a big concern for them. So can you say a little bit more about what the expectations are from regulatory authorities for cybersecurity?
So, while cybersecurity has not been called out separately in the Indian regulatory context, but the risk management principles help us to get into those and identify concerns or threats that are posed by cybersecurity for such software. Data privacy and any image shuffle that can happen that can cause a patient A's data to be reported to patient B and patient B to C. Those kind of failure modes associated could be looked at from a risk management angle and brought up as a design mitigation that need to be done, and that will drive much of those principles that we currently apply anyway today in the risk management ISO 14971. So that is, I would think that that is the way we should look at. But coming specifically from a Indian regulatory context, I think cybersecurity is not as well laid out like some other major regulations around the world.
Well, it's still an evolving field, and even in the rest of the world, I believe people are still trying to figure out. There's guidance documents available from the US FDA. I think people can look into those. Best practices are still being developed. I know AMI TIR 57, I believe, and we do have actually some folks in the audience today who are very involved in the cybersecurity area. So I believe this field will grow and best practices will evolve. Now, we did have a quick question here, Akram, from Nidhi, who's asking that when you are developing software in India, is the design and development follow to harmonize for US and EU, or was it to meet India's regulation, given that India also services its regs from US and EU? So, say a little bit more about where the Indian regulatory framework stands in the context of the international regulatory framework, especially in the US and EU. Can you say a little bit more about that?
So look, I think the Indian regulations laid out was primarily around ISO 13485 2016 version. So I believe the approach that we take for development of software using that framework will allow us to graduate into the other regulations expectations. But then specific companies make that decision on whether they want to be centric to India or they want to be going abroad into other geographies. And what I have seen in my exposure is that many of these startups are doing development not just for India, but also for meeting several regulatory requirements of the world. So they are cognizant with the fact that there are other guiding regulations. So on topping with the Indian regulation, they will have to really pay attention to certain more requirements on software, specifically IC 62304, the cybersecurity standards, and likewise if there are anything specific around the world.
Yeah. ISO 13485 is the foundational piece, right? And I know even the US FDA is going to move towards the quality management system regulation next year. And 13485 is the foundation of that. In EU MDR, they don't call out 13485, but I know they expect compliance to 13485, 14971. But EU MDR itself is a very big regulatory framework. So it remains to be seen, to your point, how the Indian industry evolves to comply with global regulation and what is the best combination, right? You're trying to kind of come up with these products quickly in our regulatory environment, but also thinking about the international market. So certainly a very fast moving space and fascinating. So guys, we still have a little bit time left. Please keep your questions and comments coming and let's make this very interactive with Akram. If you have a specific question for the Indian context, please share that with us. Akram, in the remaining time that we have, I want to switch gears a little bit because in my mind, this dynamic environment also offers a huge opportunity for our colleagues in QA and RA to advance their own careers. Can you share something from your personal background and experience, something that you have learned in your distinguished career that we can all learn from?
I'm more than happy to share mine, but I'm sure there's a lot more I need to learn as well from others on how they went about in their careers. Now, look, I think my own learning has been that as quality and regulatory professionals, we have to be close to the business, understand the business aspects of whether it is to do with product development, whether it is to do with manufacturing, whether it's to do with sales and distribution. And that's when we are able to really bring in a very meaningful solution and application of the quality systems and regulations. Right. So that's the first thing I would like to say. And in doing so early in the career, I would say if there are people listening on the early careers, I think the one best thing that you can do is read regulations and standards again and again and look at what it means to your work and how you can refine your understanding around those. I think early in the career, if your foundations are made strong, you will be one of the ones will be uh, you know looked out for solution finding. And when you're able to solve the problems for the business, you're looked at as somebody who has a broader mind to enable the business. So I think
Mhm.
as partners of the business, we ought to have that mindset and investing time in understanding the regulation standards, how it applies to the content of the work that's being done, and refining our understanding. Investing time early in the career is really the key. I think that has been something I've probably done a little more. I would say in my own lens, I've spent more time in that area,
Mhm.
and I've seen benefits of that with how I have myself climbed the
Yeah,
career.
sure thing. I think one of
And
the challenges, Akram, one of the
yeah.
challenges I think here is that there is no sort of structured program in universities or colleges to train people in terms of standards or quality or regulatory aspects. And that's a global problem, not just maybe an issue in India. How should we go about training? How should we look at building training and competence? And can you share some thoughts on that?
For people in their educational journey, I would say that there are courses out there you can always go and take, but then
Mhm.
the real learning happens when you're applying it. Unless you are in that kind of a ecosystem where you apply those learnings or the regulations or the standards, the maturity of understanding around them will take its own time. Right. So I would say also spend time with colleagues who have had experiences in the industry doing certain things, participate in such conversations that we are doing like the one today. You get to learn and experience, share the get the experience shared from the others. And perhaps the best way to learn is to do it
Mhm.
yourself. So I think a lot more out there are so many more learning avenues out there, but then in my own understanding and
Mhm.
my career development, the real application of that is key to one refining their understanding and reaching that maturity level.
Got you. Got you. I totally appreciate your message here. Thank you so much, Akram. Guys, we are coming close to our time right now here with all of us. I'm going to give Akram a couple of minutes to process his thoughts and share some closing comments with us. But in the meantime, I'm going to share a couple of announcements with you. First, this is a very special session for audience outside the United States. Generally, we do it at 11 a.m. Eastern in the US, and I know that time is not convenient for rest of the world. And we want to do this for you. So please let me know if you have any feedback, any topics you are interested, and tell your friends, tell your colleagues where you work, hey, there is an opportunity here for all of us to engage with each other, share our own perspectives, and become part of this conversation. We are trying to build a global community. So I'm asking for your help, both in terms of sharing it with other people and also giving me your feedback about what might be useful and important for our global audience. The second point here is that I have just now launched a workshop, a 4-hour workshop on post-market safety surveillance of medical devices. Now, this is an area which continues to be a challenge across the world in the medtech industry, and I'm trying to focus on that and bringing you knowledge, practical knowledge from years of my industry experience. So, if you're interested in that, please reach out to me and I will share some information with you. And the third announcement is this is a special event we are going to do once a month. So keep an eye on my LinkedIn feed for the next announcement, sometimes in March, about maybe second or third week of March. And please share this again with your colleagues and show up. I want to thank all of you guys for showing up today and participating in this discussion. With that, Akram, the floor is yours. Please share some closing comments with us.
Yeah, thanks, Naveen. Again, thank you everyone for joining. I think it's been a good platform. I think more of such platforms that we look forward to for learning and sharing. But from takeaway from this session, I would just put it as 2 points. One is while solving problems with regulators, always bear in mind the perspective or how to make the job of the regulator simpler. And when you have that as a problem statement to solve for, I'm sure the problem solving will become much more meaningful and better. And the creative thinking elements will kick in, and we'll be able to identify the right solution that will be acceptable for us as well as the regulators. And secondly, I think we spoke about a little more about the career and the learning opportunities. Perhaps for the people who are early in their career, key thing is to invest time understanding the regulations and standards and how it applies to their own job and continue refining that understanding, read and understand, and I'm sure the maturity curve will come, and then you get a broader sense of things and the business perspectives. Pretty much wrap up with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But what I say is that opportunity is here for those who want to grab it. And the atmosphere is right. There's good, new regulation, enormous opportunity. So it's up to us to take advantage of this opportunity and contribute to it, grow our own careers. I hope you are excited about this as much as I am. And Akram, thank you for so much for your time and sharing your insights with us. I had a lot of fun in this. I learned a lot, and I hope our audience also enjoyed it. Guys, please keep your comments and feedback coming and show up next time. With that, thank you, everyone, and see you soon.
Thank you.